Welcome to Sleepy Science. Before you close your eyes, know this. The ground under you is not still. Somewhere right now, a mountain is growing by the width of a fingernail. No sound, no warning. Other mountains are slowly collapsing into dust, grain by grain, without anyone noticing. Some peaks were once taller than anything alive today. Some mountains decide where rain will fall and where it will never reach. Some hide years inside stone, stacked deeper than memory. You are here to hear the strange truths people rarely talk about. The quiet facts that make mountains feel less like land and more like time itself. If you want to fall asleep while discovering what mountains are really doing, subscribe to Sleepy Science. Now, let's go back to where mountains begin. Far below the surface, long before any mountain had a name, the ground was already busy. It did not look dramatic. Nothing pointed upward yet. There were no peaks, no edges, no shadows, just layers of rock pressed together in silence. The kind of silence that lasts longer than sound itself. Deep underground, pieces of the earth were slowly pushing into each other. Not fast, not suddenly. So slowly that time almost disappears. These pieces did not collide like cars. They leaned. They pressed. They refused to move out of the way. And because they refused, something had to change. The pressure had nowhere to go, so it stayed. It stayed for millions of years. Rock began to behave in strange ways. It bent instead of breaking. It folded like thick cloth. It warmed from the inside. Nothing rose yet. Everything was hidden. If you could stand on that ground back then, you would see nothing special. Flat land. Maybe water. Maybe dust. But far below your feet, the future was already being shaped. Mountains do not begin by reaching upward. They begin by being trapped. The earth is not one solid piece. It is broken into huge sections that move without asking permission. These sections slide slowly over softer layers beneath them. When two of them meet, neither one wants to sink, so they press together. The ground thickens. Layers stack. Weight builds. This is how mountains start, not with height, with weight. The deeper you go, the stranger it becomes. Heat rises. Pressure grows stronger. Rock changes form. Some stones that seem hard at the surface are soft down there. They stretch instead of snapping. They move like slow wax under force that never rests. Nothing here cares about humans. Nothing is waiting to be seen. This process began before eyes existed to notice it, before language, before memory. Mountains started forming before there were words to describe up or down. Time behaves differently underground. 1,000 years means nothing. 1,000,000 years is a small step. Pressure works patiently. It does not rush because it does not need to. Every second adds a little more force. Every moment leaves a mark. Some of the rock you see in mountains today was once buried deeper than airplanes fly. It traveled upward so slowly that life had time to evolve around it. Trees grew and died. Oceans appeared and vanished. Still, the rock kept moving. This movement was not smooth. It paused. It waited. It pressed again. The earth adjusted itself in silence. No cracks on the surface. No signs above. Only deep layers reshaping themselves, preparing for something that would take ages to appear. Mountains are not created in a single moment. They are the result of long pressure remembering where it came from. Each layer keeps a record, not written, pressed, folded into place by force that never forgets. When pressure builds enough, the ground above begins to respond. It lifts, but only slightly at first, so little that no one would notice. A rise smaller than a hill, a change only tools could measure. Still, this was the beginning of visibility. But even then, the mountain was mostly hidden. For every bit you see above ground, much more remains below. Mountains are like icebergs made of stone. Their true size is buried. Their strength is underground. The surface tells only part of the story. What you walk on is the final result, not the cause. The real action happens far below, where darkness never ends and time stretches wide. Some mountains never make it to the surface. The pressure fades. The force changes direction. The layers relax. These mountains exist only underground, shaped and erased without ever being seen. Others continue pushing upward, slow and steady. They rise through layers of older rock, carrying deep history with them. By the time they appear, they already contain more past than any story could hold. This is why mountains feel ancient even when they are young. Their roots are older than their faces. Their beginnings are hidden in places no light reaches. When humans finally noticed mountains, the process was already far along. Peaks stood tall, valleys formed, snow gathered, names were given. But the work had started long before anyone was there to witness it. Even now, the pressure has not stopped. Beneath your feet, the ground is still adjusting, plates still press, rock still bends. Mountains are not finished objects. They are ongoing events. The quiet part is easy to miss. Nothing shakes, nothing falls, but deep inside, the earth is still doing what it has always done. It builds slowly. It reshapes itself without sound. Thinking about this changes how mountains feel. They are not frozen. They are not fixed. They are caught in a long process that began without witnesses and will continue without them. Every mountain you see started as a secret, buried, pressed, hidden from the sky. Its first movement happened in darkness. Its early life passed without being noticed. And even now, most of its story remains underground, still unfolding, still moving, still waiting for the next small change that no one will feel, but time will remember. The mountains you see today are not frozen in place. They look still because they move on a clock the body cannot feel. If you stood on the same peak for a lifetime, you would swear nothing changed. But that feeling would be wrong. Right now, as this moment passes, mountains are moving, not in jumps, not in shakes. They move in stretches so small they escape notice. The ground lifts by tiny amounts, a few millimeters, sometimes less. Then it pauses again. This slow motion never announces itself. There is no sound to warn you, no sign to watch for. The change happens beneath rock, beneath soil, beneath thought. It continues whether anyone is there or not. Some mountains are still being pushed upward from below. The pressure remains. The plates have not finished pressing. The rock has not relaxed. These mountains are growing, but in a way that feels almost unreal. Growth without motion. Change without movement. Other mountains are no longer rising, but they are not done either. Gravity works on them without rest. Wind takes small pieces away. Water cuts thin lines that deepen over time. Ice pushes into cracks and waits. So while one force lifts, another pulls down. This balance never stays the same. It shifts slowly, like a thought you almost remember. A mountain can rise and fall at the same time, depending on where you look. This is what makes mountains feel unsettling once you notice it. They seem finished, solid, complete, but nothing about them has settled into a final shape. Every edge is temporary. Every peak is on its way somewhere else. The idea of stillness does not apply here. Mountains only appear still because our lives are short. Compared to a mountain's timeline, a human lifetime is a blink that barely registers. If you could speed up time, mountains would look alive. Ridges would bend, valleys would open, peaks would soften and then sharpen again. The land would breathe in long, slow waves, but time stays slow for us. So the movement hides, it waits. It continues quietly under snow and stone. Some of the tallest mountains in the world are still rising today. They gain height each year, even as erosion works to reduce them. This creates a strange tension. Growth and loss happening together, neither winning, neither stopping. It is not dramatic. It is patient. A mountain does not rush to be tall. It does not panic when it loses height. It exists inside a process that has no deadline. This means there is no finished version of any mountain. The shape you see now is only a moment, a pause between forces, a frame taken from a very long film. Even the oldest ranges are still changing. They may no longer rise, but they are still moving sideways, still settling, still responding to forces far below that never fully fade. Some mountains shift so slowly that the ground beneath villages inches forward year after year. Houses adjust, roads crack, people notice only when the damage appears. The mountain was moving the whole time. This movement does not feel threatening, it feels distant. But once you realize it, the ground feels different, less solid, less certain, still strong but no longer final. Mountains do not belong to the present moment alone. They stretch across past and future at the same time. Their shape today depends on pressure from long ago and forces still working now. Even when a mountain stops rising, it does not stop changing. Rain finds paths, rivers deepen them, gravity smooths sharp lines. What looks permanent is slowly being edited. The higher a mountain stands, the more it invites change. Wind grows stronger, ice becomes heavier. The very height that makes it impressive also makes it vulnerable. This creates a quiet rule. Nothing high stays sharp forever. Height carries its own ending inside it, but that ending is not sudden. It arrives in pieces too small to notice. A grain of stone, a crack widened by cold, a slope softened by time. You could visit the same mountain every year and feel it is the same, and you would be right in a human way. But in a deeper sense, it would already be different. The mountain you see today has never existed before. The one you will see tomorrow will not exist again. Each moment is a new version shaped by forces you cannot feel. This is why mountains feel timeless. Not because they do not change, but because they change too slowly for memory to hold. They are not monuments, they are processes. They are movements stretched thin across ages. Once you understand this, it becomes hard to see mountains as finished objects. They are always becoming something else, always in between. Nothing about them has reached an end. The pressure below has not spoken its last word. The wind above has not taken its final piece. Mountains stand not because they are done, but because the forces shaping them have not agreed on an ending. And somewhere deep inside, even now, that argument continues in silence. Some mountains are so old that memory cannot reach their beginning. Not human memory, not animal memory, not even the memory held in living things. These mountains were already worn when life was still learning how to breathe. Long before forests spread across land, these ranges were standing. Long before rivers knew which way to flow, stone was already in place. Water had not yet chosen its paths. Trees had not yet learned how to grow tall. Still the mountains waited. Their age is not easy to imagine. Numbers stop helping after a while. When time stretches too far, the mind lets go. Millions of years become noise. Billions turn into fog. The mountain remains unchanged by our confusion. Some of these ancient ranges were once taller than anything alive today. Their peaks scrape skies that no longer exist. The air was different then. Thicker, warmer. The rules were not the same. Over time, those peaks softened. Wind worked on them. Rain followed lines of weakness. Ice pressed and released. The mountains slowly lost height not because they were weak, but because time never stops asking for more. What remains today looks calm, rounded, worn, but that softness is not youth. It is extreme age showing through stone. Forests arrived much later. They spread across land shaped by these old mountains. Trees learned where to grow based on slopes already set. Roots followed cracks made long before leaves existed. Rivers came after that. They did not choose freely. They obeyed gravity shaped by mountains already in place. Water followed the paths allowed by stone. Valleys were not accidents. They were decisions made slowly, guided by ancient ground. This means many rivers are younger than the mountains they cut through. The land was waiting for water. When it came, it found lines already drawn. Some mountains watched entire oceans form nearby, then disappear. Seas advanced. Seas pulled back. The mountains stayed. They were islands, then coastlines, then deep inland again. Life rose and fell around them. Species appeared. Species vanished. The mountains did not react. They did not record these changes in thought, but they recorded them in layers. If you could read those layers, you would see a story longer than language. You would see ash from old eruptions. You would see marks left by vanished ice. You would see pressure that no longer exists today. These mountains have seen climates that would feel unreal now. Times when ice covered much of the land. Times when heat ruled and poles were warm. Through it all, the stone remained. This kind of age changes how mountains feel. They do not seem dramatic, they feel patient, as if they expect everything to pass eventually. Some of these ancient ranges are almost gone, not destroyed, just reduced, lower than before, smoothed by endless seasons. Their height lost so slowly no one noticed it happening. Yet even reduced, they still guide the land. They still shape weather. They still direct water. Their influence remains long after their height fades. There is something strange about standing on ground older than forests. The soil beneath your feet was shaped before roots ever touched it. The stone beneath that soil remembers pressure from a world without trees. These mountains do not look impressive by modern standards. They do not reach high into the sky. They do not wear snow year-round. But they carry more time than taller ranges ever could. They are proof that size does not measure age. Height does not measure importance. What lasts longest often changes shape until it becomes quiet. Time treats everything this way. Sharp edges soften. Loud forms fade. What remains is steady and hard to notice. These mountains have outlived every story ever told about them. Names have changed. Borders have moved. The stone remains. When humans arrived, these ranges were already old. People crossed them, settled near them, built lives without knowing how much past lay beneath them. Even today, most people do not realize how ancient this ground is. They see hills. They see low peaks. They do not see time made solid, but the mountain remembers. Not in thought, in form. It remembers weight that no longer presses, ice that no longer forms, water that no longer flows that way. Every change left a mark. This is what happens when time stretches too far to hold meaning. It stops feeling like movement. It becomes presence. These mountains are not part of history as we know it. They existed before history could begin. They will remain long after our records fade. They stand as quiet evidence that the world has been many things before this moment, and that it will be many things again. When you look at them, you are not seeing the start of a story. You are seeing a middle so deep it feels endless. And somewhere beneath that worn surface, the past still rests, pressed into stone, waiting without hurry. Inside a mountain, silence is different. Not the kind you hear when the wind stops. Not the kind that comes when no one speaks. This silence is older, heavier. It is built from stone, from mass, from weight that has waited for millions of years. If you shout near the base of a mountain, the sound changes. It bends. It slows. It disappears into cracks too small to see. The mountain does not respond. It does not echo back. It absorbs. It does not forgive. It simply holds. This silence has its own shape. It moves through tunnels of rock. It travels down layers and spreads across ridges. It hides inside caverns that humans may never find. If you listen carefully, you might notice a faint vibration, but even that is not noise. It is memory. Stone behaves strangely. It does not vibrate like air. It does not carry sound in the way you expect. Inside the mass, waves weaken. Inside the mass, sound is swallowed. Mountains are not empty. They are full. Full of pressure, full of history, full of quiet you cannot name. Some caves inside mountains feel like they are holding a secret. You speak and your voice is stolen. It does not return. You leave nothing behind, yet the mountain has taken something. The weight of it lingers without sound. Even outside, the effect is felt. Walk along a deep valley, speak, clap, listen. The noise disappears faster than it should. The mountain steals it from the world as if it needs to maintain its own rhythm. It is not cruel, it is necessary. The mountain has its own time, its own rules. This stone silence is not empty. It contains layers of events. Earthquakes, erosion, ice, wind, and fire, everything leaves marks. But those marks are quiet. You cannot hear them. You cannot touch them. You can only feel them if you understand how stillness works. Some scientists notice this. They study how sound changes when it passes through rock. They measure waves, frequencies, echoes. They try to understand why mountains seem to swallow noise. They give names to phenomena, but even names cannot capture the full effect. Walk into a massive stone canyon, speak softly, then listen. It is different. The mountain seems alive, not in movement but in absorption. The mountain seems to know when to let sound go and when to keep it. You feel smaller. You feel something larger holding you in place. Even birds change their voices near mountains. In some valleys, songs are shorter, quieter. Sounds cannot travel far because the stone takes them. It is not intentional. There is no thought, yet the effect exists. The mountain teaches patience through absence. Water adds to this silence. Streams flowing along rock edges create faint music, but inside cracks it becomes hushed. Inside caves, drops fall without sound, even though each drop hits the stone. The mountain turns action into stillness. Motion becomes memory. Sound becomes weight. When snow gathers on peaks, the silence thickens. Snow muffles wind. Snow absorbs the crunch of ice. Snow completes the mountain's invisible work. Even when storms rage, some parts remain untouched, perfectly silent in a way that air alone cannot produce. Some ancient people understood this. They built temples near mountains. They listened. They knew that speaking aloud in certain valleys felt strange, like the mountain was listening back. Myths grew from this. Stories of stones holding voices for eternity, of mountains that remembered human sound long after people were gone. Inside, stone moves imperceptibly. Tiny cracks shift. Layers compress. Over thousands of years, this changes how the mountain interacts with sound. Echoes weaken. Some voices disappear entirely. What you hear is not random. The mountain filters. It filters history. It filters presence. The silence also protects. Deep inside, seeds and spores rest undisturbed. Animals find shelter where sound cannot reach. Even light does not enter some hollows. Silence becomes a home, not empty but full of possibility. Life exists quietly inside the weight. If you climb a mountain and reach a high cave, you can notice it. The wind may whistle outside. Your own steps may echo. But inside there is nothing. No sound travels. You realize the mountain is a container, a keeper. It has space for everything but will not give anything back. This is why mountains feel absorbing. They take more than attention. They take the edges of thought. Your mind quiets when surrounded by mass. Your worries feel lighter because the stone holds a weight you cannot see. You cannot measure it, but you feel it. Even at night, this effect continues. A mountain under moonlight seems solid and silent. Stars reflect on snow and ice. You hear less than you imagine. Your own heart sounds loud compared to the rock. The mountain continues absorbing sounds that never existed. Some peaks have chambers so large that voices vanish before reaching the center. You could walk for hours and find no echo, no vibration. Only stone waiting, unchanged, older than any memory, older than any human story. The mountain's silence is patient. It does not hurry, it does not demand, yet it influences everything nearby. The longer you stay, the more you notice your own sound shrinking. Conversations soften, footsteps slow, even thoughts feel compressed. This absorption extends beyond hearing. The mountain seems to take energy in a way that cannot be measured. Light, warmth, wind, all have less impact than expected. The stone keeps its own rhythm. Visitors adjust without realizing it. The mountain is never empty, it is always full. Scientists call some of these effects acoustic shadowing. Poets call them sacred. Ancient people called them home. Whatever the name, the result is the same. Mountains hold. They contain more than the world gives them. They remember. They filter. They remain unchanged while everything around them moves. This is why standing on a high ridge feels different from standing in a plain. The air may be calm. The wind may blow. But something inside the mass of the mountain presses against the world outside. It holds sound, weight, memory, and quiet. You may notice it most at dusk when shadows stretch across ridges. Speak, then pause. Listen. The mountain does not respond. It does not return. It only waits. Your voice is no longer yours. It belongs to the stone. Even centuries of storms cannot fill the silence. The mountain remains full but patient. Every small sound is absorbed, then forgotten. It is not cruel. It is natural. The stone has a rhythm older than wind, older than rain. This is why mountains are mysterious, not because they move in strange ways, not because they grow or erode, but because they contain without releasing. They take and hold, they filter and store, and even when humans cannot notice, the work continues. Inside every mountain, silence is alive, not in movement but in presence. It stretches across cracks, across layers, across time. It is heavy, it is constant, and it teaches, if you are willing to notice, that some things exist outside sound, outside memory, outside life as you know it. And that is why mountains feel like they absorb everything. Not just noise, but the edges of thought, the weight of attention. Even the smallest heartbeat seems quieter when held inside that ancient, endless stone. Mountains reach toward the sky in ways that seem permanent, yet the air around them is never still. The sky meets the peaks in an invisible conversation. Clouds gather, break apart, and shift because of the shapes below. Mountains do not speak, they do not move fast, but they decide where the wind flows and where storms form. When clouds approach a high range, they cannot pass without noticing. Air rises over the slopes. Moisture condenses. Rain forms, sometimes on one side while the other stays dry. Mountains act as invisible rulers of the sky. They shape patterns that stretch far beyond their own height. Some peaks split clouds like a blade through water. White shapes pull apart as they reach ridges. The mountain does not push. It does not pull. The clouds change because air cannot ignore the obstacle. The sky bends around stone. The atmosphere responds quietly in ways humans rarely see. Wind is another part of this hidden story. When strong gusts meet a slope, they swirl and twist. Some air rises higher than expected. Some drops down faster. The mountain is not moving, yet the air behaves differently because it is there. It interrupts flow without trying. It shapes what happens above it. Temperature changes along peaks. Sun warms one side more than the other. Snow reflects light differently depending on angle. These small changes ripple through the air. Tiny differences in heat can start clouds forming or dissolving. The mountain becomes a center for invisible choices. It decides slowly how weather behaves. Even storms feel this influence. Lightning often strikes near peaks. Rain can fall unevenly across ridges. Snow gathers more on one side than the other. The mountain itself does not move, but it guides the storm's actions. Nature listens to stone as if it were an old ruler. High plateaus interrupt the flow of air for hundreds of miles. The wind arriving on one side cannot ignore the obstacle. It slows, it accelerates, it bends. Birds know this. Some fly around peaks instead of through valleys. They feel the mountain's influence without ever touching stone. Some mountains cause clouds to linger. Mists hover longer than they should, as if the air is trapped in hesitation. Fog collects in hollows. It thickens and thins according to cracks in ridges. The mountain is not alive, yet it performs functions humans would call thoughtful. The atmosphere at high altitudes is thinner. Oxygen is less. Temperature drops. These differences force the sky to behave differently. Clouds cannot maintain the same density. Snow can form earlier than nearby plains. Rain falls heavier. Lightning strikes sooner. The mountain is not changing the sky by choice. It simply interrupts what would have happened otherwise. Even sunlight bends in subtle ways over peaks. Shadows stretch longer. Heat rises differently. One slope might be warm while another stays cold. This uneven warmth affects air currents. The mountain quietly shapes the weather around it. The tallest mountains even reach the edge of the stratosphere. Clouds often swirl in strange patterns near their peaks. Ice crystals form differently. Tiny winds spin unpredictably. Even jets flying overhead feel the disturbance, though no one can see it clearly. Mountains create barriers for storms that travel for days. Some storms cannot cross a range. They turn. They weaken. They slow. The stone does not act consciously. It does not care about rainfall. It only exists and the air responds. If you watch carefully, you can see how mountains write the sky. Cirrus clouds stretch along ridges. Puffy clouds break where valleys allow. Weather seems almost deliberate, but it is a quiet result of height, mass, and placement. The mountain interrupts the atmosphere simply by being there. The peaks also affect humidity. Moist air climbs slower. Dry air falls faster. Clouds form at specific heights because the mountain raises the baseline. This changes rainfall, snowpack, and even the growth of plants far below. Stone decides the rules without speaking. Lightning often travels along ridges because the mountain pulls electricity in a hidden way. It is not conscious. It is physics, shaped by altitude, moisture, and mass. Yet when you watch a storm hit a mountain, it feels purposeful. The sky behaves differently here than anywhere else. Even the wind at night changes near peaks. It spins around corners. It whispers through valleys. The mountain holds patterns in place that extend beyond sight. Airplanes adjust to avoid turbulence caused by hidden ridges. Birds adjust their paths. The stone bends the living world without touching it. Fog that clings to mountains is thicker than fog elsewhere. Clouds pause along slopes. Water droplets hang in the air longer. The mountain does not speak, yet the sky obeys. Mist follows its contours, storms navigate around its form, rain decides its path. Mountains also act as shields. Some valleys stay dry while others flood. Some slopes collect snow. Some slopes remain bare. The stone has shaped these patterns over millions of years. Even a small peak can redirect wind for miles. The air cannot ignore it. At sunrise, shadows stretch across slopes and ridges. The sun warms the air unevenly. This pushes clouds to change shape. The mountain shapes light and air together. Even morning feels different near high peaks. Some clouds split into strange shapes when they hit mountains. Tornadoes sometimes form because of high ridges. Fog gathers. Hail falls differently. Everything reacts as if the mountain has a presence in the sky. Even human-made structures cannot ignore it. Ski lifts, observatories, and weather stations all adapt to how air behaves near peaks. Pilots study ridge turbulence. Hikers notice sudden winds in places that feel impossible. The mountain is influencing every movement above it. The highest peaks even create their own small climates. Temperatures drop, snow lasts longer, ice hangs in crevices for months. Clouds form faster than on nearby plains. Rainfall changes in patterns only visible from above. Stone interrupts the atmosphere, turning space around it into something unique. This interaction has existed for millions of years. Peaks formed slowly, yet their effect on air was immediate. Each ridge, each slope, each crack helps shape weather that humans can measure but cannot control. Mountains quietly enforce their rules. Even the smallest mountain can divide clouds. Even the quietest ridge can redirect wind. The size matters, but placement matters more. Nature bends around what is solid, high, and permanent. The sky obeys because it cannot ignore height. Mountains do not need to move to act on the sky. They only need to exist. Their presence is enough to change air, to shape clouds, to guide storms, and to create weather decisions that stretch far beyond their own peaks. Some peaks seem to command respect. Storms hesitate near them. Winds slow. Clouds pause. It feels like the mountain is holding secrets in the sky, something invisible and powerful that cannot be touched, only observed. This is why mountains feel alive from below and above. They interrupt air, bend clouds, redirect storms. They are silent rulers of space you rarely notice. And even if humans leave the area, the sky continues to obey. Every peak, every ridge, every slope quietly touches the atmosphere. It decides paths without a word, guides storms without hands, and creates patterns in clouds that last for hours, days, or even weeks. Mountains and the sky are connected in ways invisible. They are partners in a slow, silent dance. The stone interrupts the air. The air responds. Nothing hurries. Nothing shouts. Yet the effect is undeniable. The sky changes near mountains. You can feel it without realizing. The air behaves differently. Clouds separate. Storms hesitate. Sunlight shifts. Rain falls in unexpected ways. Peaks touch the atmosphere without moving at all. The mountain is still. The sky moves. But the mountain has shaped it. Always. For longer than you can imagine. Mountains have edges that look sharp, like they separate one place from another. But these edges are not boundaries in the way humans think. They are only stone, rock, and air. Any line drawn on a map is a human idea. The mountain does not know it exists. It does not care. People look at a ridge and call one side one country and the other side another. Maps mark it clearly. Lines are drawn. Flags are planted. But the mountain has no understanding of these marks. The stone remains continuous. Its peaks and valleys ignore ink and paper. Borders can be violent or peaceful. They can be agreed upon or fought over. Mountains do not change for any of that. One slope continues into another, untouched by decisions made far away in cities or courts. The mountain only exists in stone, weight, and time. Even when humans climb, hike, or survey, the rock does not change. It does not notice footsteps. It does not register maps. Its boundaries are invisible, natural, and far older than any law. The land does not recognize what humans call division. Some mountains stretch across hundreds of miles, crossing invisible lines humans declare. Names change, languages change, people change. The stone continues as if it belongs to no one. Its ridges and valleys existed long before ownership mattered. Rivers that run down slopes do not stop at lines on a map. They continue naturally, following gravity and geology. Water ignores names, borders, and permissions. Rain that falls on one side may eventually reach a sea on the other. Mountains shape flow, not politics. Even the tallest peaks cannot enforce human rules. They do not divide air or clouds according to maps. Wind passes freely. Storms cross slopes without checking who owns the land. Snow gathers on one side, melts on the other. Nothing respects a line drawn by a pen. Sometimes borders use mountains as markers. A ridge may separate two regions. Humans use it for convenience, thinking the stone agrees. But the mountain has never noticed. It continues rising, eroding, and shifting slightly. Its slopes pay no attention to our divisions. Some valleys feel like natural barriers. Humans assume they protect one side from another, yet wildlife does not care. Animals pass ridges and peaks freely. Seeds move with wind or water. Mountains are not prisons, only obstacles shaped by gravity and stone. Even the names of peaks are temporary. A mountain may have one name in one language, another in a different culture. Explorers give new names. Maps update. The stone remains unchanged, unaware of its labels. The mountain never learned a name, it never will. Borders change over centuries. Empires rise, countries fall. Lines move east, west, north, south. Mountains remain. Some old ridges still hold the shape of continents long vanished. The stone remembers nothing humans declare. Its continuity outlives rulers, cities, and maps. Invisible lines exist only in imagination. Humans agree to follow them. Soldiers march along them. Travelers notice them. But on the mountain itself, no change occurs. One slope is as connected to another as it was millions of years ago. Even where two countries meet, the mountain feels no difference. The air on one side is the same as on the other. Soil is the same. Rocks are the same. The ground stretches beyond names and papers. The mountain exists in continuity that human imagination cannot fully capture. Some climbers notice this quietly. They cross peaks, not knowing if they are in one place or another. The stone beneath their hands does not answer. The mountain does not care. Borders are irrelevant in the face of sheer rock and gravity. Invisible lines also affect perception. Humans see division and tension where none exists in nature. One slope may look foreign, another familiar. But the mountain treats every section equally. Every ridge continues naturally into the next. Its form is continuous. Even mapping technology cannot change this. Satellites show lines and coordinates. GIS systems track borders precisely. But on the ground, the mountain continues as if none of this exists. Peaks, valleys, ridges, and rivers remain indifferent to human decisions. Some ranges are especially striking in this way. They extend for hundreds of miles without interruption. One side may belong to one country, the other to another. Yet the mountain feels whole. Its peaks are shared by air, rock, and time. The mountain never learned how humans separate. It only knows weight, erosion, water, and gravity. It knows where pressure bends the rock. It knows where wind erodes the slope. It knows how ice melts in cracks. Borders are meaningless. Even snow does not recognize them. It falls wherever air and elevation allow. Some slopes collect more snow. Some slopes remain bare. This happens independently of human ownership or maps. Nature is older than politics. Mountains enforce their own logic. Invisible lines create illusions. People may see a difference between one side and another, but the mountain does not recognize it. Its influence is impartial. Its mass does not care who walks, climbs, or claims. The stone continues in silence, ignoring human names and decisions. Even centuries of observation cannot change it. Scientists, hikers, and explorers may measure, map, and note lines, but the mountain remains beyond division. Its peaks, valleys, and ridges exist on a scale older than laws. Every ridge, every slope, every hollow continues across invisible lines. Boundaries are human. Stone is eternal. When you stand on a peak that crosses a map line, remember, the mountain does not belong to anyone. Its continuity is older than any claim. Borders end in offices. Lines end on paper. Mountains continue far beyond them. They rise, erode, and reshape themselves without asking for permission. Human decisions matter only until the next storm, the next snowfall, the next small shift of stone. To touch a mountain is to touch something that ignores names, borders, and rules. Its weight and form are older than decisions. Its continuity cannot be split. Maps may attempt to contain it. Flags may try to mark it. But the mountain knows nothing of that. And this is what makes mountains mysterious. They exist on their own terms. They continue quietly while the world divides itself around them. They hold continuity humans cannot impose. They are neither owned nor finished. No one can teach them names. No one can assign them limits. They are boundaries only to themselves. Invisible lines exist only because humans decide they do. The land does not recognize them, and the mountain never learned the names. Some mountains no longer exist, not in pictures, not in maps, not in memory. They were once taller than anything we see today. Peaks that scraped skies, ridges that cast shadows for miles. They are gone and the world barely noticed. Erosion is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not hurry. Wind scratches stone with invisible hands. Rain carries tiny grains away. Ice presses into cracks, splits rock, and moves small pieces slowly. Layer by layer, the mountain loses shape. Some mountains were buried instead of eroded. Layers of earth, ash, and sediment covered their peaks. They vanished beneath what once seemed like flat plains. No human witnessed it. No record remains. Only the ground remembers. Loss in mountains is so slow that it cannot be seen. A millimeter every year. A grain of stone taken by wind. Snow that melts, carrying away tiny pieces. Over centuries, the peak lowers. Over millennia, it disappears. By the time humans notice, the mountain is already gone. Some of the tallest ranges of the past are now small hills. What was once immense now seems ordinary. The world changed around them. Water cut valleys, earth shifted. Nothing remained untouched. Even the stone itself changes. Minerals erode, layers compress and crumble. Soft rock disappears first. Harder rock lasts longer, but even it weakens over time. The mountain loses its identity slowly. No dramatic collapse, no sudden fall, only quiet disappearance. Rivers play a role in this hidden work. They follow gravity, carving paths through rock. Valleys grow wider, peaks shrink. Water carries sediment downstream, spreading pieces of mountain far from their origin. Mountains become memories in soil and stone elsewhere. Wind also shapes disappearance. Gusts push tiny particles from peaks and ridges. Sand and dust travel for miles. What was once solid disappears without anyone hearing it. The mountain is shrinking silently. Ice does more than create beauty. It wears away edges. Glaciers slide down slopes, grinding stone. They pick up debris and drop it far from the original peak. The mountain changes shape, slowly losing height. It is a long process humans cannot feel in a single lifetime. Even volcanic mountains vanish with time. Lava cools, then cracks. Ash accumulates, then washes away. Pressure shifts. Magma may create new peaks elsewhere while the old ones crumble. Some ranges vanish entirely, leaving only valleys behind. Some mountains disappear without trace. They once defined horizons. They once guided rivers. They once held the sky closer. Now they are flattened. The land seems ordinary. Humans do not notice the loss because it happened over centuries and millennia. Time makes loss invisible. The eye cannot see a few millimeters gone each year. The mind cannot remember centuries of shrinking. Mountains vanish almost without record. Only geologists can read the evidence in layers, in sediment, in fossils. Even large ranges that survive today were taller in the past. Snow-capped peaks once higher, ridges sharper, valleys narrower. Erosion has softened them. What we admire as immense today is only a shadow of their former selves. This slow disappearance changes rivers, weather, and life around the mountain. Streams follow new paths. Valleys widen. Soil spreads into plains. Animals adapt to changes that happen too gradually for them to notice. The mountain is not gone, it has transformed. Sometimes mountains are hidden, not destroyed. Sediment from nearby rivers can bury peaks. Earthquakes can shift land, hiding once visible ridges. Layers accumulate over stone, and the peak no longer breaks the horizon. It exists under what seems flat. Even underground, lost mountains remain. Their roots are still there, buried by pressure and sediment. Geologists can detect them through surveys, but on the surface they are invisible, forgotten, their height erased. Loss in mountains is not violent. There are no crashes or explosions. Only patience. Only time. Each rainstorm, each wind, each frost contributes a tiny part. No one notices until much later. The world appears the same. The mountain is gone. Some peaks disappeared entirely before humans arrived. They were present when life was young. They were gone before history began. We cannot even imagine their height. Only fossils and traces remain. Stone tells a quiet story of disappearance. Even when mountains are buried, their influence remains. Rivers follow paths created by the original slopes. Valleys form where the peak once rose. Soil composition carries the memory of stone long gone. Life adapts to land shaped by a mountain that no longer exists. Disappearance teaches patience. Mountains do not vanish in a single instant. They vanish in ways too slow to notice. The ground shifts imperceptibly. Stone grinds itself down. Snow and rain carry grains away. It is quiet, invisible, unstoppable. Sometimes new mountains grow where old ones disappeared. The earth replaces what was lost, slowly, over time. But the new peak is not the same. Its memory is different. The loss of the old mountain is permanent. Only remnants remain. Even today, the mountains we see are not the same as they were 1,000 years ago. They are already smaller. Erosion continues. Ice presses. Wind scratches. Rivers carve. Every peak carries evidence of what has vanished. Standing on a peak, you can imagine what was once taller. You can sense loss in the way the slopes feel less steep, the ridges less sharp. The mountain teaches history without words. It tells of disappearance that humans cannot perceive. Some lost mountains were larger than any alive today. Some guided ancient rivers. Some blocked storms. Some reached higher into the sky than we can see. They are gone, but their work remains. Water flows where they once rose. Soil spreads where they once stood. The disappearance of mountains is a quiet force. It changes landscapes, life, and climate slowly. It is patience in action. Time works on stone with precision. Loss so slow no one noticed it happening. And even as some mountains vanish, the earth continues. Peaks rise elsewhere. New ranges begin. Old ones crumble. The cycle never ends. Mountains appear, disappear, and transform. Nothing is permanent, everything changes. Even the tallest and most famous mountains are part of this cycle. They will shrink. They will be softened by wind and water. They will lose height in ways invisible to the human eye. They will disappear just like the mountains that came before. And this is the quiet mystery. Mountains seem eternal. They seem solid. They seem permanent, but they are not. They vanish in slow motion, leaving traces only those who watch patiently can see. Their disappearance is part of their story. It is a story of time, patience, and the invisible work of the earth itself. At night, mountains change. Not in shape, not in stone, but in presence. You cannot see their peaks or ridges clearly. Darkness swallows the edges. The scale that seemed obvious in daylight disappears. All that remains is feeling. Walking near a mountain at night is different. Your eyes search but find nothing. Shadows hide the slopes. Valleys vanish into blackness. Even when the moon rises, the outlines are softened. The mountain seems larger or smaller or impossible to measure. The mind cannot trust what it sees. Darkness gives mountains a new power. Without light, perception shifts. A ridge that looked gentle in the day feels impossible. A slope that seemed steep feels like a cliff. The mind fills gaps with imagination. Every sound seems amplified. Every movement in the dark feels uncertain. Night air adds weight to this feeling. Cold settles along the slopes. Wind moves quietly, brushing unseen ridges. Every rustle of leaves, every small snap of stone is magnified in attention. The mountain is still. Stone does not move much. Yet the mind senses motion where there is none. Some climbers report that peaks feel taller at night. Distance is impossible to judge. The mind guesses, stretching or shrinking the mountain in ways that daylight never allowed. Heights that seemed familiar feel alien. Paths that seemed safe feel dangerous. The mountain has changed its scale. Silence intensifies this effect. Without birds, without insects, without the constant sound of human life, mountains feel larger. Valleys feel deeper. Canyons feel endless. Even small hills appear monumental. Darkness exaggerates every ridge, every hollow. Light from stars or moon shifts perception again. Shadows stretch across slopes. Shapes that seem flat in daylight now look sharp. Crags appear taller. Snowfields glimmer in isolation. The mountain feels alive, not in movement but in presence. At night, the mind begins to notice what it ignores in the day. A whisper of wind seems significant. A distant rockfall seems close. Patterns of terrain that were clear now confuse the eye. The mountain commands attention because it is mostly unseen. Some valleys vanish entirely in darkness. You walk into what seemed open space, and suddenly the path narrows. Rocks that were visible disappear. Trails twist into uncertainty. Your body senses steepness differently when vision cannot confirm it. Every step is a guess. Even familiar mountains become mysterious at night. Peaks that you climbed safely in daylight now feel unreachable. Valleys that you crossed easily feel endless. The mountain exists in two forms: stone itself and the mind's reaction to stone hidden. Light can be deceptive. Moonlight may shine on a slope, but shadows lie beyond it. A ridge that looks shallow may drop sharply into blackness. Human eyes seek contrast, but in darkness, contrast disappears. The mind invents depth, often exaggerating it. Sound behaves differently at night. Footsteps echo. Wind whistles through ridges. Animals move quietly. The mountain seems filled with whispers, though the stone itself does not speak. Every echo shapes perception, making scale feel unpredictable. Temperature changes contribute. Cold air sinks into valleys. Ridges catch frost. Moisture settles silently. You feel the mountain more than see it. Hands brush against stone. Feet press into soil. Body senses space in ways that vision cannot measure. Even snow feels different at night. Its texture is unfamiliar. Its slopes cannot be judged accurately. Moonlight reflects inconsistently, making edges hard to measure. Walking across frozen slopes feels endless. Every step becomes a calculation of balance and perception. The mountain seems larger because it is partly unknown. Your mind fills in gaps. It imagines crags higher than they are. It imagines ridges longer than they are. Darkness stretches scale beyond physical measurement. Fear and curiosity mix in subtle ways. Some people feel awe in this darkness. The mountain feels infinite. Valleys seem deeper than oceans. Peaks feel higher than clouds. The mind cannot reconcile the unknown with experience. Night teaches that size is relative. Perception is malleable. Even familiar sounds create mystery. Water running unseen, stones rolling down hidden slopes, wind gusting through unseen valleys, all contribute to a sense of scale. The mountain exists beyond measurement because the senses cannot confirm its shape. Shadows make movement uncertain. Rocks that seem still may be animals. Valleys that seem empty may hide cliffs. The mind fills voids with possibilities. Darkness changes not only what is seen, but what is imagined. The mountain feels patient in the night. It does not need to move. Its presence is enough. You cannot see its edges, but you feel them. You cannot measure its height, but you sense it. Stone continues unchanged, but perception expands. Even breathing feels different. Cold air, thin at high altitude, adds to attention. Every inhalation reminds you that the ground is vast and the slopes unknown. The body reacts to hidden scale before the mind can process it. Stars above do not make it easier. They provide points of reference, but distances remain uncertain. Peaks may disappear into darkness between stars. Valleys may hide in black. The mountain seems endless in ways that daylight does not allow. The mind reacts to hidden height. Fear mixes with awe. Curiosity blends with respect. Every ridge, every hollow, every unseen edge feels significant. The mountain is still stone, yet it occupies space in the imagination beyond its physical form. Even for those who sleep near mountains, the night is different. Dreams may carry a sense of height or depth. Sleep becomes influenced by unseen peaks. The mind continues to explore slopes that cannot be measured. Night teaches a lesson about scale. What is familiar can become vast. What seems safe can feel dangerous. What appears small may stretch beyond comprehension. Mountains at night are teachers of uncertainty and patience. Some climbers prefer night ascents for this reason. It is not about danger but perspective. The mountain shows itself as more than stone. It shows itself as space, presence, and reaction. Darkness magnifies its existence. Even distant peaks influence perception. A mountain far away may feel impossibly tall when edges vanish in black. Atmospheric effects exaggerate distance. The mind cannot measure what it cannot see. By the time daylight returns, the mountain resumes its familiar shape. Peaks align, valleys reappear. Scale returns to measurable terms, but the memory of night remains. You have experienced the mountain as it exists beyond human measurement, beyond ordinary perception. Night makes mountains feel eternal. Their stone is unchanged, yet their presence expands in the mind. Heights are unknown. Valleys are hidden. The mind reacts differently because vision cannot define what exists. Darkness is a lens through which the mountain grows larger, older, and more mysterious. Every peak, ridge, and hollow becomes impossible to fully grasp. Perception extends beyond the body. Height is hidden, yet undeniable. The mountain at night exists in two forms, as stone and as scale imagined by the mind. The second is just as real. Darkness teaches that mountains are not only physical. They are perception, memory, and imagination stretching beyond sight. Even standing silently, you can feel the change. Air moves differently. Shadows play tricks. The mind measures and guesses. Stone feels heavier. Slopes feel taller. Valleys feel endless. Night transforms mountains into mysteries that daylight cannot convey. And so, when darkness falls, the mountain is no longer just a place. It is a presence, something that cannot be measured, something that cannot be fully understood, something that stretches beyond vision and grows in the mind itself. Mountains create life in ways that plains and valleys cannot. Their height changes the air. The air is thinner. Oxygen is less. Temperatures fluctuate rapidly. Wind sweeps across slopes. Only certain creatures can survive here, and they adapt in ways that seem strange to humans. Some animals grow small or light to climb better. Their legs are strong for steep slopes. Their hooves or claws grip rocks like magnets. They move where others cannot. Every ridge, every cliff, every narrow path is part of their world. The mountain shapes them, and they exist only because it does. Plants also adapt in unusual ways. Roots dig into cracks in stone. Leaves are smaller to avoid losing too much water. Some flowers bloom only in summer because winter is harsh and long. They survive where soil is thin and snow is common. Without mountains, they could not exist. Even insects behave differently at high altitude. Some fly with stronger wings to handle wind. Some hide in rock crevices to survive cold nights. Life finds a way, but only within the limits that the mountain allows. The stone, the slope, the air all shape existence. Air differences affect everything. Oxygen is thinner at high peaks. Animals breathe faster. Plants slow their growth. Tiny changes in pressure make life work in unique ways. One step wrong and creatures cannot survive. Mountains act as natural filters, shaping who can live and who cannot. Some birds nest only on cliffs. Their eggs are hidden from predators that cannot reach the height. Some migrate to lower slopes in winter, returning when the mountain softens in spring. Life revolves around the stone and air, the temperature, and the space carved by the mountain. Even rivers that form on mountains shape life. Streams carry minerals to valleys below. Some fish only exist in high-altitude waters. They are isolated by steep slopes. Mountains create islands of survival. Creatures evolve differently because the peaks and valleys keep them separate. Small mammals burrow in soil pockets where stone allows. They hide from predators. They store food in hidden caves. Their survival depends on cracks, slopes, and the unique conditions that the mountain provides. Move them to a plain and they would struggle. Some plants look fragile but are incredibly strong. Alpine flowers may seem delicate, yet their roots grip rock through ice, snow, and wind. They survive temperatures far below what lowland species could endure. The mountain shapes their resilience. Insects at high altitude sometimes develop colors that reflect heat. Some hide in shade to avoid freezing. Their life cycles are shorter or longer depending on seasons and snowmelt. The mountain dictates time, indirectly creating patterns of growth and decay. Predators also adapt. Snow leopards, eagles, and wolves rely on the mountain's space. Their hunting strategies depend on slopes, ridges, and cliffs. Some stalk quietly along narrow ledges. Others soar, riding winds that plains cannot offer. They exist because mountains create the conditions they need. Even fungi and mosses survive only in cracks and crevices. Moisture collects unevenly. Sunlight reaches some slopes more than others. Life finds pockets of opportunity in stone. Without these unique spaces, these species would vanish. Air movement shapes survival in subtle ways. Wind can carry seeds, insects, and spores farther than walking animals can. But only certain slopes allow seeds to land safely. Only certain ridges offer shelter. Mountains dictate where life can settle and where it cannot. Temperature extremes force adaptations. Nights can be freezing while days are warm. Creatures that cannot handle both die. Those that survive have evolved slowly to withstand sudden changes. Their fur, feathers, and skin reflect this challenge. Life here is precise, shaped by constant environmental tests. Some flowers and plants only grow in snowmelt areas. Streams carve temporary paths in stone. Seeds lie dormant until water arrives. Mountains force patience and timing into the very DNA of living things. Life exists in rhythm with stone, snow, and air. Animals also adjust behaviorally. Some hide during storms. Some migrate short distances between slopes. Some hunt only during certain hours when temperature allows. Mountains create life not only physically, but also in how creatures act and interact. Even microscopic life is shaped by altitude. Bacteria, fungi, and algae survive in thin air, cold, and limited nutrients. They colonize stone surfaces. They provide the base of a hidden ecosystem that only exists because of the mountain's conditions. Some creatures are isolated. Valleys and ridges act as natural barriers. Evolution takes separate paths in neighboring slopes. What exists on one ridge may be completely different from the next, even a few kilometers away. Mountains create pockets of unique life. Trees at high altitude grow slowly. They may take decades to reach a few meters. Harsh conditions prevent fast growth. Every ring in their trunk records struggle, endurance, and adaptation. Without mountains, these slow-growing species could not survive. Even birds change their behavior. Some navigate ridges and valleys carefully. Some nest in spots too steep for humans. Their songs may carry farther in thin air. Their hunting strategies adjust to unpredictable slopes and shifting snow. Alpine mammals often have thicker fur or fat layers to survive temperature swings. They move cautiously to conserve energy. Every step costs more because gravity and slope demand effort. Mountains shape not just the body, but energy itself. Some species appear fragile but thrive. A flower that grows between cracks may seem easily crushed. Yet it survives wind, snow, and frost for years. It only exists because the mountain allows it a protected niche. Remove the mountain, and it disappears. Even human survival in mountain regions depends on adaptation. Communities learn to farm terraces, herd animals on steep slopes, and gather plants that grow only in specific microclimates. Life bends to the mountain, shaping culture, work, and daily routines. Predators and prey exist in delicate balance. Mountain slopes dictate hiding places, hunting grounds, and migration paths. Stone and air create conditions that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Life is forced to adjust or vanish. Water affects life in subtle ways too. Streams form temporary pools. Ice melts, feeding plants and animals. Some species rely entirely on seasonal flows. Mountains control where life has access to water. Without peaks and slopes, these patterns vanish. Some animals use the mountain's features creatively. Goats jump across narrow ledges. Birds nest in vertical cliffs. Insects hide in crevices. Fungi cling to stone surfaces. Every adaptation is a response to height, air, and slope. Even soil itself is influenced. Thin layers collect in cracks and hollows. Only certain plants can take root there. Animals then feed on those plants. The mountain indirectly creates an entire ecosystem from its shape and elevation. Life at high altitude feels like it exists in a different world. Every creature, every plant, every microorganism is tuned to conditions that would be impossible elsewhere. Mountains force specialization. Only the adaptable survive. Some species are invisible to humans. They thrive in niches humans cannot reach. They climb higher, burrow deeper, or hide in rock crevices. Mountains give them space and safety that plains cannot provide. Even small variations in slope affect life. Shadows, moisture, and wind exposure dictate where plants grow, where animals hide, and how insects move. Life becomes a map of microhabitats created by stone and air. The presence of life on mountains reminds us that stone is not just dead. It creates possibilities. It shapes survival. It forces adaptation. Every peak, ridge, and valley is home to creatures that could not exist anywhere else. And this is the hidden power of mountains. They create life in strange, precise ways. The air, the slope, the temperature, the stone, all shape adaptations over generations. Mountains are more than landforms. They are life makers. Some mountains remain unseen by humans, not because they are hidden on purpose, not because anyone forbids access, but because they are distant, far beyond ordinary paths, beyond maps most travelers use, beyond the curiosity of climbers. They exist quietly, untouched. These mountains are dangerous. Sharp ridges, unstable rocks, and sheer cliffs rise without warning. Avalanches sweep slopes that no one watches. Ice can break under a single step. Even if someone tries, the mountain will not yield easily. It is not cruel. It is indifferent. It simply exists. Distance adds to the mystery. Some peaks lie hundreds of miles from the nearest village. Rivers and valleys separate them. Forests grow thick. Paths vanish under snow or rock slides. No human presence reaches them. They remain outside maps that matter to people. Some mountains are forgotten because time ignores them. They never appear in stories or songs. They were not the first to be climbed. No explorer wrote their name in a journal. They exist silently, quietly shaping weather, rivers, and air, while humans never notice. Even modern technology cannot make them familiar. Satellites see peaks, but cannot show the experience of standing there. Drones fly, but cannot reveal the feeling of being among sharp ridges and hidden valleys. Human attention cannot reach everything. Some places remain completely unknown. The danger of these mountains is real. Loose stone, sudden storms, hidden crevices. One wrong step can send someone sliding down hundreds of feet. Even experienced climbers avoid them. They are not impossible, but they demand more than most are willing to give. Some mountains are difficult because of ice. Glaciers cover slopes in thick, shifting layers. Snow can collapse without warning. Hidden crevasses swallow those who do not see. The mountain does not fight, it simply exists. The danger comes from its shape, weight, and size. Others are dangerous because of rock. Sharp cliffs rise straight into the sky. Ridges collapse unexpectedly. Loose stone makes every step uncertain. Even trails that appear safe can vanish in a single storm. The mountain is patient. It waits for humans to make mistakes. Isolation adds to mystery. Some peaks are far from civilization. No roads, no villages, no signs. Birds may fly there. Snow may fall. Clouds may gather. But no human foot touches the stone. The mountain exists outside memory and attention. Some peaks are forgotten because they are overshadowed by famous neighbors. The tallest, the most climbed, the most photographed. Yet just beyond the known ridges, mountains rise, equally grand, equally old, and completely ignored. They exist in parallel, untouched. Even maps do not help. A mountain may appear as a contour line. Its dangers are not shown. Its crevices, ice fields, and cliffs are invisible on paper. Only experience or chance reveals what truly lies there. Most humans will never know. Some mountains are forgotten because nature hides them. Fog collects in valleys. Snow masks paths. Forests grow thick. Even rivers do not always lead to peaks. The mountain conceals itself, not out of desire, but by simply existing in its natural form. The untouched nature of these mountains creates strange ecosystems. Animals live without humans. Plants grow without disturbance. Streams flow unpolluted. Life develops in patterns unseen by eyes that watch the familiar peaks. Nature continues, independent of human interest. Some mountains are ignored because they are not useful. No mines, no water sources, no shelter. Humans do not climb for adventure or survival. The stone remains untouched because it offers nothing that humans want. Yet it continues to exist, unchanged by desire or neglect. The remoteness also preserves mystery. Creatures may thrive in hidden valleys. Streams carve silent paths. Avalanches shape slopes. Glaciers move slowly. All of this continues without observation. Mountains live outside human timelines. Even extreme conditions do not prevent life. Cold, wind, and thin air challenge plants and animals. Only specialized species survive. Life exists quietly, away from attention. Mountains create homes without asking for recognition. Some peaks are forgotten because climbing them offers no glory. They are too high, too dangerous, too distant. Even if someone succeeds, few notice. The mountain remains the same, indifferent to achievement. It does not reward. It does not care. Rivers from these mountains are untraveled. Snowmelt forms streams that flow through valleys with no names. Plants and animals rely on water that humans never touch. Mountains shape life invisibly, even when humans ignore them completely. The scale of these untouched mountains is hard to imagine. Peaks rise hundreds of meters above valleys. Slopes are sheer. Cliffs are sharp. Even the most experienced explorers cannot guess what lies beyond the first ridge. Distance adds a layer of secrecy. Weather shapes these mountains differently. Storms can form suddenly. Clouds gather and break without warning. Winds sweep slopes. Temperatures drop quickly. The mountain is not alive, yet it behaves unpredictably in ways that humans cannot control. Some mountains are forgotten simply because they are quiet. No roads lead there. No trails cross their slopes. Silence dominates. The air is untouched by human sound. Even the wind seems slower, as if respecting solitude. Even in modern times, humans rarely climb them. Expeditions prefer safer or more famous peaks. The forgotten mountains remain as they have always been. Their stone, ice, and slopes exist independently of maps, attention, or fame. Danger, distance, and neglect combine to preserve them. Avalanches, crevices, and cliffs deter visitors. Remote valleys and thick forests hide approaches. No one records the experience. The mountains exist in a state outside human influence. Even their influence on nearby lands is subtle. Rivers start, clouds form, wind changes direction. Life adapts, streams flow differently. Forests grow where sunlight reaches. Yet most humans never notice these effects. Mountains shape the world quietly without acknowledgement. Some peaks are forgotten because no one has tried. The challenge is too great, the reward too small, the danger too real. And yet the mountain stands as it has for thousands or millions of years, indifferent to human choice. These untouched mountains are reminders that not everything belongs to humans. Some things exist purely for themselves. Stone rises, ice forms, snow melts, life continues, and humans may never arrive. The mystery of these mountains lies in their absence, their solitude, their independence. They are too distant, too dangerous, too forgotten. Places untouched not because they are protected, but because they are ignored. And in that ignorance they remain eternal. Sharp ridges, hidden valleys, unseen peaks. The mountain exists on its own terms, beyond maps, beyond attention, beyond human desire. It is untouched, not by law or preservation, but by indifference. Mountains are like books written in stone. Every layer of rock, every fold, every crack tells a story. They hold memory without knowing it. Nothing in a mountain is random. Time, pressure, and nature leave traces. Nothing is erased. Everything is buried, carefully recorded by the earth itself. Ice preserves memory in a different way. Glaciers form slowly, layer by layer, each winter adding to the record. Snow that fell centuries ago is compressed into ice, trapping air, dust, and tiny particles. Scientists can read these layers to understand climate, wind, and storms from long ago. The mountain holds history silently. Rock layers tell another story. Sedimentary layers were formed in water, then pushed up by force. Each stratum records a moment in time, a memory of erosion, of pressure, of minerals settling. Mountains remember the oceans that existed where stone now rises. They carry memories older than humans. Fossils hidden in stone are reminders of life that no longer exists. Ancient plants, animals, and creatures buried in rock speak through the memory the mountain holds. The mountain does not intend to preserve them, yet they remain quiet witnesses of time. Even folds in rock tell a story. Tectonic forces bend and twist stone over millions of years. Peaks rise, valleys sink, ridges twist. These patterns are like handwriting left by the earth. No one instructed it, yet it records history perfectly. Erosion adds detail to memory. Water, wind, and ice slowly change the surface, revealing hidden layers beneath. The mountain becomes a palimpsest, showing what happened long ago and hiding what came later. Nothing is lost. It is merely buried under stone and soil. Snow and ice can trap objects for centuries. Stones, plants, even human artifacts that fall into cracks may remain perfectly preserved. A mountain holds them like a safe, not out of choice, but because the processes of nature keep them there. Volcanic mountains preserve memory differently. Layers of lava, ash, and pumice capture violent moments of eruption. Each flow tells when and how the mountain changed. The rock is a record, a memory of fire and pressure that no human could rewrite. Even small cracks and fractures carry information. Ice expands in winter, breaking stone. Rock compresses under pressure. Water moves through layers, slowly changing chemical composition. Every change is a note in the mountain's memory. Some mountains hold memory of time before humans existed. Ancient seas, forests, and life forms are recorded in stone and ice. No one observed it, yet the mountain knows. It preserves history that humans can only uncover with effort and study. The thickness of ice layers tells of long winters. Dark layers show storms, light layers show calmer seasons. Each layer is a diary of weather. The mountain writes it without intention. Humans read it later and marvel at what was preserved. Rock colors tell history too. Reds, browns, and grays reveal minerals deposited millions of years ago. Shifts in color show pressure, chemical changes, or volcanic activity. The mountain records every change, every chemical reaction, as if it were a silent witness. Fossils can even reveal behavior. Footprints preserved in rock show animals walking, resting, hunting. Leaf imprints record forests long vanished. The mountain holds memory of movement, life, and activity without anyone asking it to. Glaciers move slowly but leave memory behind. They grind stone, carry debris, and shape valleys. When ice retreats, it leaves scars that tell a story of pressure and motion. Mountains preserve the memory of ice that existed thousands of years ago. Sediment tells memory in detail. Rivers deposit minerals, soil, and organic matter into layers. Peaks rise and fold the layers into new shapes. Every layer is a record of time passing, storms coming, and stone reacting. Nothing is lost, it is just reshaped. Even caves preserve memory. Stalactites and stalagmites grow slowly, recording water flow, mineral content, and temperature changes over centuries. The mountain holds these details invisibly, silently, yet perfectly. Landslides, avalanches, and collapses also add to memory. Each shift of stone, each fallen ridge creates a record. Even destruction becomes part of the mountain's story. Nothing disappears. It is only rearranged or buried. Ice cores taken from high glaciers are like pages of a book. Each centimeter records years of snow, ash, pollen, and air bubbles. The mountain has written the history of the sky, the wind, and the seasons without any thought. Volcanic ash layers reveal eruptions. Some trace storms that happened thousands of years ago. They are permanent in rock and ice. The mountain holds evidence even if humans never witnessed it. Even the shape of valleys and ridges tells a story. They were carved by ice, water, and gravity over millions of years. Every curve and slope records forces that shaped them. The mountain preserves every shift, even when nothing moves visibly. Rock hardness and fractures carry chemical memory. Minerals form under pressure, change under heat, and preserve evidence of conditions long past. The mountain is a chemist that never forgets. Tree lines, moss, and lichens also leave memory. Life grows in patterns dictated by slopes, air, and sunlight. When life dies, it leaves traces in soil or stone. Mountains silently record biological history alongside geological history. Even erosion patterns reveal past climates. Deep gullies show where water flowed heavily. Smooth slopes show long periods of calm. The mountain holds every change as if noting it in a diary. Volcanic mountains can record explosions that changed the world. Layers of ash may reach far valleys. Mountains trap the story in layers that do not fade. Humans can uncover the memory only if they know how to read stone. Ice, snow, and rock act together to preserve memory. Melting and freezing reveal layers. Cracks expose fossils. Rivers uncover hidden sediment. Mountains are patient archivists that never tire. Even small mountains hold local memory. Streams, rocks, and soil record rainfall, erosion, and temperature changes over centuries. Nothing is too small to be remembered. Some mountains even contain evidence of past earthquakes. Shifts in rock layers show pressure released. Faults form, peaks rise slightly. The mountain keeps memory of geological events that humans may never witness. The memory in mountains is vast. Every slope, ridge, and peak records time. Every layer of rock, ice, or soil adds detail. Nothing is erased. Everything is preserved quietly, invisibly, perfectly. Standing on a mountain, you are on top of history. Millions of years are beneath your feet. Layers of time, life, ice, and stone combine. You walk over memory that existed before humans, before cities, before words. Mountains are silent historians. They hold records of Earth's changes, life's evolution, and forces that shape the land. Ice preserves winter, stone preserves life, and valleys carry stories of movement. All of it exists without intention. And in this memory, mountains teach patience. Time is slow. History is preserved in layers. Nothing is lost, only buried. Mountains are the ultimate keepers of memory, recording everything that happens in stone and ice without ever noticing themselves. Even after humans climb, hike, and map mountains, the stone does not change its pace. Peaks remain. Valleys persist. Trails may be carved, but the mountain continues on its own terms. There is no collapse, no grand drama, only quiet persistence. Erosion resumes its slow work immediately. Wind scratches stone. Rain carries particles down slopes. Ice expands in cracks during winter. Every process that existed before humans continues without pause. The mountain does not notice attention or neglect. It simply works in the rhythm set by nature. Rivers running from the peaks continue carving paths. Snow melts, water flows, sediment travels. The patterns humans observe are only temporary glimpses of a much larger process. Mountains are patient architects, reshaping themselves over centuries and millennia. Even where humans build shelters, huts, or observation points, stone remains dominant. Wood rots, metal rusts. Only the mountain endures. Its weight presses down silently, unaffected by the footfalls of climbers or explorers. Every human trace is fleeting against the scale of time. Wind shapes every ridge. Gusts move sand and dust across slopes. Over centuries, they polish stone faces, carve new hollows, and reshape edges. Humans may notice minor changes, but the real work is hidden, slow, unstoppable. Mountains continue as they always have, indifferent to human presence. Ice and snow play their part. Glaciers creep down valleys, grinding rock beneath them. Snow compresses into ice, preserving layers of air and dust that record climate without anyone noticing. Even human activity does not interrupt this work. The mountain continues its story, layer by layer, season by season. Volcanic mountains continue to evolve too. Lava may cool, cracks form, and ash layers accumulate. The eruptions of the past may be long gone, but the forces of magma below continue. Pressure builds slowly, shaping future flows. Mountains are alive in stone and fire, even if humans are absent. Erosion hides secrets of history. Peaks that were once taller slowly reduce in height. Valleys widen. Ridges soften. The processes are almost invisible to human eyes. Only careful observation over decades or centuries reveals that change is happening. The mountain story does not pause for humans to notice. Even plants follow the mountain's rhythm. Trees grow along slopes, adapting to thin soil and wind. Flowers bloom when conditions allow. Life molds itself to stone, snow, and air. Humans may walk past unaware, but every living thing continues in harmony with the mountain's slow work. Animals, too, continue their routines. Goats climb steep ridges. Birds nest on inaccessible cliffs. Predators hunt quietly. Every creature adapts to slopes, valleys, and wind. Human absence does not change this natural order. It only gives life more space to operate without interference. The mountain also holds memory in stone and ice. Fossils, layers, cracks, and folds continue recording time. Human history is brief. Geologic history stretches far longer. Even after people leave, the mountain's memory persists, silently holding evidence of life, climate, and movement across eons. Even paths worn by humans eventually disappear. Stones shift, soil moves, rain washes footprints away. A trail that was visible last year may be gone the next. The mountain absorbs human activity and continues as if nothing happened. The story is uninterrupted. Water continues to shape the land. Streams carve new paths. Rain flows into valleys, picking up soil and stone. Glaciers slowly retreat or advance, leaving polished rock behind. Peaks and ridges change imperceptibly, maintaining the mountain's natural rhythm. Humans are temporary observers in this vast timeline. The scale of mountains makes human action almost irrelevant. Trails, shelters, signs, and markers fade over time. Stone endures. Snow melts and forms again. Wind shifts dust and sand. The mountain exists beyond the reach of our short lives, beyond our memory, beyond our records. Even landslides and rockfalls follow the mountain's long-term rules. When stone gives way, it is slow or small, rarely dramatic. Peaks remain, valleys persist, and slopes continue. Mountains do not collapse in rage or despair. They only continue, reshaped slightly by natural forces. Weather still shapes the mountain in subtle ways. Storms erode peaks. Snow presses on slopes. Temperature changes crack stone. Over decades, these small effects accumulate. Human absence or presence matters little. Nature's processes continue quietly, steadily, and powerfully. Ice cores, snow layers, and sediment continue forming records. Even if humans are gone, the mountain keeps its memory. Each layer of snow, each mineral deposit, each compressed glacier is evidence that time marches on without interruption. Nothing is erased, nothing is forgotten. Some peaks may seem unchanged for centuries, the eye notices little, but stone, ice, and water are never still. Slow changes occur in layers, folds, and crevices. Erosion continues its patient work. Life adapts quietly. The mountain story moves forward. Animals find new niches as stone shifts subtly. Plants grow in small cracks where soil accumulates. Rivers change courses slightly. The ecosystem continues to evolve under the mountain's influence. Human absence allows subtle natural processes to continue undisturbed, but the story itself is always ongoing. Even the tallest and most rugged peaks soften over millennia. Wind and rain polish stone. Ice grinds valleys. Gravity moves boulders. Mountains change imperceptibly. The process is ongoing. Human presence cannot accelerate it significantly, nor can it halt it. Clouds and weather still respond to the mountain's form. Peaks guide wind. Valleys channel air. Storms gather or dissipate over slopes. The mountain interacts with the sky in patterns that continue beyond human attention. It remains a force shaping climate in quiet ways. Even the memory of human activity is temporary. Footprints fade, campsites erode, trails vanish. The mountain itself endures. It carries memory of both humans and natural history, but the natural processes dominate the story. Human presence is a brief note in a vast, continuous record. The slow work of erosion ensures that the mountain's form is never static. Peaks are gradually lowered, valleys widened, ridges smoothed. The processes are subtle and take centuries to notice. Yet the mountain continues always, regardless of attention. Even forgotten mountains continue quietly. No explorers, no climbers, no maps, yet the mountain remains alive in processes of stone, ice, wind, and water. Peaks rise, valleys deepen, and erosion shapes slopes. The story of the mountain does not pause for observation. The presence of life continues to adapt. Animals, plants, and microorganisms follow the mountain's rules. Each species responds to temperature, slope, moisture, and air. Life exists in balance with stone and snow, and the story continues in perfect silence. Even the memory held in rock and ice grows. Layers accumulate, fossils remain, sediment spreads, cracks form, crevices deepen. The mountain records time, climate, and life in ways humans cannot interrupt or erase. The story continues always. And so, after humans, after exploration, after mapping and climbing, the mountain remains unchanged in essence. Its stone, ice, and life persist. Erosion, wind, water, and ice continue their patient work. The story does not end. It simply keeps going. Mountains teach that nothing truly ends. Peaks rise, fall, and change. Valleys deepen. Life adapts. Stone holds memory. Ice records seasons. Human presence is brief. Nature continues its slow, relentless work. Mountains exist in a timeline far larger than ours, and the story simply carries on.